Unreal Engine 5 does not have a performance problem or an optimization problem. That problem stems from most likely two things. One, you're probably playing on PC, not a knock against PC. I'll explain that in a second. And two, developers just not having enough time. It really has nothing to do with the engine. Back when there was a multitude of different engines that a lot of different studios used, we still had the same problem of poor optimization and buggy launches, but now it just seems like those problems are all related to Unreal because the majority of games are releasing on Unreal. But I would wager that roughly around the same amount of games are coming out with poor optimization. It doesn't have anything to do with Unreal though. Outside of, I think, Black Myth: Wukong, I haven't noticed any major performance issues with any of the Unreal Engine games I've played on the PS5, so the PS5 versions are usually pretty fine. I have heard a lot of complaints about the PC version of the games often being poorly optimized, but again, that doesn't really have to do with the Unreal Engine. That has to do with how complicated it is to make a game run really well across almost any PC that you could be playing it on. Getting games to run really well on PC, especially big, complicated AAA games, is really difficult because of how many permutations of chips there are. Like, there are almost an infinite amount of combinations of parts, chips, different factors that could go into how your PC runs. And when you're testing out a game, it's really hard to test across all those different permutations and have the game run well across a multitude of devices. Not impossible, but very difficult. That's why generally it's easier to develop a game that runs really well on a console, because you're really only developing for one, maybe two different chipsets on each individual system. And a lot of times the publishers are just not going to give the developers enough time to properly test and optimize across as many PC builds as they probably should. That's why sometimes people have really good hardware and it still runs bad. Just because you have good hardware doesn't necessarily mean that that's the hardware it was optimized for, if that makes sense. This is the major reason why Rockstar doesn't release their games day and day on PC. They give it like an extra year to make sure that when that PC version comes out, it's flawless and up to their standards. There is also the added incentive for them that they're hoping you're going to double dip, that you'll buy the console version, then buy the PC version again. But the main reason they do it is to make sure that they have the time to properly optimize that game without delaying the release for the console version. But there's a reason why a lot of developers switched to using Unreal instead of proprietary engines, because a lot of times the proprietary engines gave them way more trouble than whatever it's going to take to get the game optimized on Unreal would be.